Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Update Show. I'm your co-host, Trey Holiday, and I love doing this with my co-host, Big O. I gotta throw it on over. Hey, Big O, how are you?
All right, Trey Holiday, good morning. A lot going on. We're still configuring this new studio setup here. Actually, they're doing some work as soon as the show's over. We're building out a photo wall behind you.
I love it, man. So much upgrades to the studio from when we first got here.
Well, that's because Black Girl Magic is here. You know what I'm saying? Hey, all hail the queen. We gotta get it right for you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I know you guys are always taking good care of me.
Well, we do our best. Today, we have some guests later on in the show from the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. We're talking to Melissa, who is the executive director there for the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. So that'll be pretty dope. Get some information that's going on. Nikki Barron has all the COVID information that you could ever want and need. And so we'll be discussing that. We had a lot of other stuff on the show this morning, especially talking about King County Council and their budget there, affordable housing, big win for the people out in Skyway, and the rest of the county as well, and some of the city budget discussion. But I thought I put a tweet out last night, and actually I'll see if I'm able to find that tweet. We'll do a screen grab. The King 5 ran a segment yesterday, and in that segment, it talked about, like, you know, the days leading up to the CHOP and everything else. But the question wasn't answered. Who gave the order? That's what people really want to know, is who gave the order. So, you know, King 5 talked to the FBI, they're talking to Chief Best, they got emails, they got texts, but the question still remains of who gave the order. But also something that was very interesting yesterday that really stuck out to me even more was Chief Scoggins. And in this piece here, they put Chief Scoggins next to Ransomone with an M16 or whatever kind of gun, you know what I'm saying, is in there. And it's like, oh, Chief Scoggins was trying to do his part but failed or something. We're gonna play this clip here, and we're gonna dedicate some time, you know, thanks to Bobby Stills and Nikki Barron and our volunteers who went through and clipped out so much of our footage. We got receipts. So first off, though, let's start with this clip from yesterday from King 5.
As protests against police brutality raged on Capitol Hill in early June, rumors spread through the ranks of city employees that Seattle police might abandon their East Precinct. City officials tried to tamp those rumors down, according to emails and texts from the mayor's staff obtained by King 5. We will not evacuate or abandon the East Precinct, one mayor's office spokesperson texted to another employee. We will not abandon one of our facilities, an assistant Seattle police chief told officers.
It's really unclear to me why there was any conversation about potentially abandoning the precinct beforehand.
Carmen Best was Seattle's police chief at the time and now works as King 5's law enforcement analyst.
Certainly, my position was that we were not going to leave the precinct, and it wasn't until the circumstances dictated a danger to both the facility and to the people within that we did so on a temporary basis.
Seattle police moved sensitive equipment out of the precinct on June 8th, the same day the mayor's office removed a protective perimeter in the city blocks around the East Precinct.
Subsequent to that, it became very difficult to get back into the facility safely.
That gave protesters an opening to form the Capitol Hill Organized Protest Zone, or CHOP. I watch what's happening in your city from South Florida. I'm in shock that you would say this is a peaceful protest, said one citizen, one of hundreds of emails, writing the mayor after Seattle's cop-free zone made national news.
The Seattle City Council will come to order.
Some Seattle City Council members had openly questioned whether police were overstating threats against the East Precinct to justify what the council saw as heavy-handed police tactics. For the first time, texts show those same concerns also came from the office of Governor Jay Inslee. Governor's office is speaking with our delegation. They don't believe the intel around the East Precinct. Is it possible to have the FBI confirm? Mayor Durkin's chief of staff said in a text. The Seattle FBI later said there were credible threats against the police precinct.
Was there a threat against that precinct? Is that what your FBI office believed?
There were indications back there that there were multiple threats to the East Precinct as well as to other locations and law enforcement entities within the Seattle area.
Once Seattle police abandoned the CHOP, officers rarely came back in. East Precinct, they disabled the door lock so they can't be locked, said one text after a group broke into the police precinct. The job of securing the building fell not to police, but to the fire department and Chief Harold Scoggins. And Chief Scoggins relied on one of the self-styled armed security chiefs at the CHOP, hip-hop artist Raz Simone. Raz, I just got word that 4 people just broke the door at SPD and entered the building, said a Scoggins text. A way to keep SPD out of the space is secure that building during the protest. Can you guys work with us on that?
There weren't the level of leaders there that we could effectively negotiate with.
Bess says handing security over to Simone and others did not work.
You should know, leaving the precinct was not my decision.
Bess made this announcement days after the evacuation, shifting the spotlight for the decision-making to the mayor. Emails show the mayor's office was blindsided by Bess' comments and worked to contain the fallout. Emails show the mayor's staff literally crossed the chief's name out of attempts to show unity between the mayor and chief in press releases after Bess' surprise announcement.
How divided were you when it came to losing that precinct?
I think initially things were moving very quickly, but ultimately we had a conversation about the need to have the officers return to the precinct. And at the end of the day, the mayor did agree.
Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best eventually resigned her position. 3 weeks at the CHOP cop free zone further divided the nation, and it upended a city that's still trying to figure out how to handle public protests and police reform. Chris Ingalls, King 5 News.
All right. So this right here, which is interesting to me, is because it's all that access right there. And Chief Best works at King 5. Like, can't nobody say, like, who gave the order to evacuate? Also, which is interesting in this story, is you hear the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the representative saying there was indications of a threat. It's like indications of shoplifting. Like, is there a threat or was there not a threat? You know, and then you put this fire chief there and you put him side to side with somebody who's carrying this gun, and it's like, oh, leaked text messages. Let me tell you something. Let me just hop in the time machine here. And share something here with the general public. The fact that Chief Scoggins, and this is disingenuous that you just want to put a picture of Chief Scoggins there next to Raz Simone. Chief Scoggins, as well as Mami Hara, as well as Sam Zimbabwe, carried the city's water. They carried the water for the city. They walked down there every day, whether you agree with them or not. Those were the people who was on the ground every single day. And Chief, and the funny thing is this isn't exclusive. We streamed the meetings. Go on in YouTube right now and put Chief Scoggins Converge in YouTube. These were all very open meetings there. You see what I'm saying? What Chief Scoggins and other city employees were doing there was streamed to the public. So it's not exclusive found information or anything else like that. And so I really think it's just crap, to be honest with you, crap. This other stuff was just cop talk. You know, oh, I didn't do this. FBI says indications. Chief Best says this and this. But, you know, it's something going on. I feel like people trying to throw Chief Scoggins under the bus.
You know what? And I'm glad that you're actually speaking up, because you're absolutely right. As somebody who was there in the CHOP every single day and streaming all of the activity, you already know you were calling Chief Scoggins a leader back then when nobody else was stepping up to try to bring protesters and try to find some type of civil engagement and some type of safety, make sure people were good. Chief Scoggins was walking the beat. He was literally in the midst of all of the stuff that was going on, and he was acting as that leader that he is called to be.
Right.
So
and you know, and the thing at the time in the CHOP is I said, man, you know what? The thing about Chief Scoggins is he's a city leader that carries a lot of weight, but not a lot of baggage, because he was with the fire department. You see what I'm saying? And so it was a willingness to communicate. It's a total disservice. It's okay to, this is why we got our media. This is why we got our black media right here, because you ain't going to just put some picture up next to Chief Scoggins and next to somebody with a gun and be like, oh, Scoggins is this and that. So here you go, Seattle. Let's start with a national story right here. You guys might have missed this. You might have missed this, but guess what? ABC News Nightline did.
Like this one with Harold Scoggins, the chief of the Seattle Fire Department, who seemed to meet some of the protesters' demands.
Requiring body-worn cameras, recording at protest. That's a change that has been made. In no way do I imagine that this comes close to meeting all of the concerns and needs, but in the conversation, one of the things we're trying to do is understand how we serve the business owners, how do we serve the residents.
And amid the stalemate between police and city government over the fate of the vacated precinct, Scoggins served as an intermediary to build trust.
I was African American before I ever put my first uniform on. So all of our personal experiences inform our decision making. We're also focusing on serving the protesters and trying to ensure that they have a safe space to express their First Amendment rights. People want and need to have a voice.
So that was Chief Scoggins. That's ABC News Nightline, which to the whole world showed Chief Scoggins meeting with people there in the CHOP. And also in that meeting, we're getting ready to show you an extended version of it. In that meeting was the CHOP security, business owners, and residents. It's disingenuous to put our chief up there with, oh, it's Raz Simone, it's this and that. It's disingenuous. You're not going to do that to us. And I'm glad that we're here to push back on it. This one right here, this clip is 4 minutes. I do a small introduction because this was the first time we were streaming. Chief Scoggins came to us, as well as the community came to Converge and said, can you guys stream what's happening here? So it's amazing that it's just now undercover and finding emails or whatever. This was streamed to the public in real time. This is Chief Scoggins right here. He's addressing a group, and actually all kinds of people are in here. There's security people in here. I think Raz Simone is in here. There's business owners in there. There's residents in here. And you'll find in this clip, when you see this clip, Chief Scoggins is carrying the city's water. And you'll see in this clip is Chief Scoggins, is Mommy Hara, Sam Zimbabwe from SDOT. And all the things that Chief Scoggins is in there reading is coming from City Hall. All these things. You know what I'm saying? King Fi should be talking about trying to get this man a medal. You know what I'm saying? And want to sit up there and put some funny images up here. But you'll see right here, Chief Scoggins is sitting here and he's reading what the city sent him, because what nobody from City Hall come down there. Then wasn't the mayor's office didn't come down there. Nobody from City Council came down there to talk to people. And so this responsibility fell on this black man, this fire chief, who lived up to this responsibility. Here it is right here. This is a 4-minute clip.
We are actually broadcasting to you live from our studios here. And I don't know, it's the Chaz, it's the CHOP. I think we got some experts over here today who also might be able to let us know. It's a rapidly changing, fluid environment here on Capitol Hill. But just tell you guys briefly what's going on here, and I'll pass it over to Chief Scoggins. So basically, Converge, our role is here is that clearly we've been streaming a lot of stuff here, and the community was having a meeting and wanted to be able to bring some transparency. Clearly, you can't get 500 or 1,000 people inside of a place a lot of times. So you have some voices that have emerged here that are meeting with the chief. The chief has come with representative from public utilities. We also have people representing small business here and security here. Just want to be clear, we did not put this meeting together. These guys put the meeting together, but what they did ask to do is to be able to stream it. Our position here at Converge Media, as we say all the time, we're not with the protesters, we're not with the city, we're not with organization or anything else, just a media company that happens to find itself in the middle of this storm, kind of like everybody else probably in this room. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Chief Scoggins, and I think maybe people might introduce themselves or whatever. But, the floor is yours, Chief.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for agreeing to this follow-up conversation on the conversation that we had yesterday. And as people may see, we're all wearing masks. It's a reminder that we are in the middle of a pandemic, and that's really important that we stop the spread of COVID-19. And I will do a plug, and I will let you know that we have 2 community testing sites open, one on Aurora and one in Soto, where anyone that's in the community can get tested. And all you have to do is go to seattle.gov/COVID-19. But that's why we're all wearing masks. It's very important. So we'll do a round of introductions, and then we'll get grounded a bit in the conversations from yesterday, and then we'll figure out how we move forward today. But I'll just cover the highlights of some of the things that have already been done. Additional resources and more transparency in officer discipline. There's a paragraph that ties to that, and you guys will have a copy of that. Review of SPD crowd management policies. There's a paragraph tied to that, and you guys will have that. Ban the use of tear gas and less lethal as crowd control management tactics unless in life-threatening situations. You'll have copies of that, and then we can talk about that The National Guard has now been redeployed. I talked about that yesterday, so they are now gone. No filing of criminal charges against the protesters. There's a paragraph tied to that one also. Preserve the CHOP. And yesterday it was a different name, but I'll just commonly refer to it as 12th and Pine in the general vicinity. Additional requiring body-worn cameras recording at protests. That's a change that has been made. Consent decree, to push pause on the consent decree. 2016 Campaign Zero and SPD's use of force policies. So that's going to start to be in the works. Requiring the display of officer name and badge number. That policy has already been implemented, and there's more steps to make it permanent. Statewide independent investigation for officers who use deadly force. So that's already moving forward. So these are a lot of steps forward. In no way do I imagine that this comes close to meeting all of the concerns and needs, and that's why we're here to have the conversation. But in the conversation, one of the things we're trying to do is understand how we serve the business owners, how do we serve the residents, while making sure all of you are in a safe place as we continue to unfold this.
Look at that. Every single thing that Chief Scoggins read there, not one thing had to do with the fire department. Chief Scoggins went down there and took a leadership role on behalf of the city, because guess what? Nobody else would. We ain't see nobody from the mayor's office down there. We didn't see a city council representative. Any of them could have easily been there. Hey, you know what? City council member so-and-so, they're getting ready to have a meeting. You know, nobody came. Nobody from the Seattle Police Department just to call and be like, hey, these guys want to meet with the police. Nobody came. Chief Scoggins came. It's just disingenuous. It's disingenuous what we saw there on that King 5 clip. It's totally disingenuous, Trayana. And I'm glad we was on the ground and we was there. And this is why a lot of the protesters have a problem with the mainstream media.
Yeah.
This right here.
Yeah.
100%.
That's exactly where I was going to say, because working in mainstream media, you realize you're not on the ground. You're not a part of the experience. Again, reporting on something is just that. You're reporting on some events. You're trying to get the facts. But when you're on the ground, there's nothing that can be said for live coverage, showing things in real time, being a part of the solutions while things are unfolding. All of that knowledge is what Converge was able to infuse in its coverage, which is why people understand Converge was having this holistic coverage of what was going on. Being there makes a difference.
Yeah, and here's another clip. This is actually for the day before. This was June 13th. This is kind of a heated conversation. Here's Scoggins with some of the people there in the CHOP, and he's talking about trying to deploy fire extinguishers and some other things.
I'm here to talk about fire and life safety issues. That's what
Would you leave?
No, you haven't done.
Well,
so don't say you've done it.
People have been changing.
If you
Our
let me
medics,
talk.
the medics around here have been taking care of a lot of things, and they've gone through a lot of stuff. Military type medics, okay?
Yeah.
And when people try, when the police chief was saying that we were trying to burn down the police, no, we were trying to protect it and make sure that nobody did that. We, every time anybody even came close to looking like they were going to start a fire, we extinguished it.
And I appreciate that.
Well, I'm glad that you appreciate that, and I think that we should be able to work together, because as a community, we're able to.
The chief been here every day though, fam. Like we got it on tape. The chief be here every day at 7 a.m. out here.
Hold on. We
did our best. Yeah.
Just listen. You used your fire tools to put the fire out, right?
Well, there wasn't really a fire.
No, there was fire.
But we're ready.
Did you use your fire extinguishers to put the fire out?
Yes.
Okay. Did I drop you off more fire extinguishers last night? So I'm working with you on that. Okay. But it's not just about the fires.
And if the fire,
so let me finish. I get the state you're in right now, and I really don't think you.
Why don't you let him finish what he's saying though?
Listen. I mean, we can ground ourselves in our personal experiences, and if that's what we want to do, we can do that. I mean, I have probably similar experiences as you. I grew up in Los Angeles under, the LAPD under Daryl Gates, and if I say that, maybe you understand what that means, but maybe you don't.
I'm from Detroit, and I grew up with
So I'm grounded in the same experiences as you. But what I'm trying to tell you is, we also have the community that we're trying to protect. Not just the protesters, the people who live here, the people who are, and I know you don't care about that right
I
now.
do care about
but
that very much.
So let me just go over some things, and then we can talk about it.
All right. So again, there's Chief Scoggins, right there. And the whole point of why this is important and why that clip yesterday on King 5 was disingenuous here when Chief Scoggins, because it minimizes what Chief Scoggins, Mami Hara, Sam Zimbabwe, Adris, all these people, these public employees. Chief Scoggins is the most high, the most recognizable, but most people don't recognize. The city of Seattle had people on the ground there who every single day were there. Every single day trying to build relationships, trying to understand needs of protesters. Some things worked, some things didn't work, but they were there. They were on the ground. And that's what's not said there in that King 5 report, that every single day you'd find Chief Scoggins and you'd find Mami Hara there at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You'd find them checking on buildings, checking on people, checking on structures, checking on, all these other things. Something else that people don't talk about is that when they talk about the security of the East Precinct, Mami Hara and Seattle Public Utilities were concerned about the safety of the drinking water, because over there in Cal Anderson Park, in North Cal Anderson Park, the reservoir is right underneath it. And there was cars parked over there on top of the reservoir. And Seattle Public Utilities came over there and was, and talked to people like, hey, you know what? We have to maintain the safety of the drinking water, X, Y, and Z. There was people on the ground, you know what I'm saying, in the chop. And whether the protesters agreed with them people or didn't agree with them people, is disingenuous to roll what they're calling. Ain't nobody from SPD. And by the way, SPD came and went how they wanted in there. You know what I'm saying? They came in, when they walk into the precinct, they walk in. Why nobody there stopping them? You know what I'm saying? They walk in, they leave. We got it on tape. We did several interviews there. The bigger issue I'm pointing out, Trey Holiday, is that the lack of leadership. And they put the city of Seattle clearly put the load on Chief Scoggins' shoulders, and he carried the load. And it's unfortunate that the city released a statement yesterday to King 5, and they should really be trying to uplift Chief. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, clearly. I'll say this. You got to recognize the leaders when you have them and where you have them. When you see somebody stepping up to the plate like this, I agree with you. I don't understand why the city would say a statement that allowed King 5 to kind of use it in that way and then pair him up and make it seem as if all he was doing was like secretly talking to Raz and connecting with like this like, uniform chop security. That's not what was happening. And again, I'll say this. I think that when we talk about the sensationalism of news and of major media and why so many people on the ground and living things in real life and in real time don't always connect to these major media stories, is because, again, they dig for the sensationalism. They found that text message and they thought, let's build a story based off of this text message.
Sensationalism. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? They could have just glossed over that one. Oh, here's a text message. Or you know what? You could have came to the people who really got the receipts, the people who was really there. And like I said, you can put in Chief Scoggins Converge Media on YouTube and see the full length. This was streamed live to the world back in June. So when they're sitting there talking about exclusive text messages found, communications, or what, it was streamed live. ABC Nightline did a special on June 18th on Chief Scoggins. Like, this isn't new news that's out there, but how can we sensationalize? And again, what access to emails, access to text messages, access to the FBI, access to Chief Best, and they come back with no answer for who gave the order to evacuate the precinct.
Yeah.
And why is that important? Why is that important? That's important for the family of Antonio Mays Jr. That's important for the family of Horace Lorenzo Anderson Jr. That's important for business owners, some of them who might not ever come back into business. That's important for residents who live there, permanently impacted, some who moved from Capitol Hill because of the trauma impacted. That's important for the protesters. That's important for the citizens. And nobody in this city, they can shift blame. Everybody never want to shift blame on Chief Scoggins' shoulders, but who's going to stand tall and take responsibility and say, I gave the order. I did this. Speaking of that, Let's go back to August. Let's stay in the archives. We're going to go back to August because I asked Chief Best, and I put a edited clip on Twitter because of the time limit on Twitter. Here's a good portion of this conversation. You can go to this one too. I interviewed Chief Best quite a few times, but it's the morning update show, Chief Best, Converge Media on YouTube. What responsibility does the Seattle Police Department take in the formation of Chaz and then what became CHOP? And can you tell us who gave the order to vacate the precinct?
Yeah, that question comes up all the time. So a couple of things. I think very clearly the police did not create the CHOP zone, the Capitol Hill organized protests. I don't think there's any officer that would stand up and say I was a part of the Capitol Hill.
You don't think de facto by leaving your precinct, though,
yeah, I absolutely do not.
it?
I do not think that, Omari. I do think, here's what I do think, that people came in, we had days, as you were out there every single night, days and days and days of protests right here at 11th and Pine, a real flashpoint for police and protesters. And it was a continuous cycle. So the decision was made to remove the barricade, to remove the barrier, to allow people, if they have the street, then there won't be this, contention point, and there won't be these other issues that flare up. So that was agreed upon to do. And so in doing so, there was a concern, two different things. One, the fire chief said he was concerned about the building being set afire because there had been a history of that, and that the building was vulnerable. And two, the sensitive information and weapons that were in the building. So the decision was made by the folks in the building on the ground to move all the stuff out of the building in case there was a problem, in case there was a fire. That was my understanding of it. That's how it was explained to me. They moved out of the building. They go to get back into the building, not to walk out forever in a day, but to get all the crap out of there that they needed to get out of there, and then to come back to the building. Couldn't get back in the building because the very barricades that we had lifted, another group had come in and put barricades all around and were precluding the entry of the officers back into the building. And that is what happened, and that is the truth. I have no reason to tell anything but the truth.
Are you saying that your intention was to reduce the footprint at the East Precinct, and in doing so, once you did that, officers could not return back to the East Precinct?
That's exactly what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. And that's my understanding of the events.
Well, so you're the chief. It stops with you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The buck stops right there, Chief.
Yeah.
So, but you don't feel then, if we go down this route that you're saying, it's like, okay, you wanted to reduce your footprint, get your sensitive information out of the building.
Tried to get back in, couldn't get back in, physically precluded from getting back in. And then to be honest, let me just finish here. But then to be honest, there was really not the political will to move people from the CHOP. There were people saying it was a block party. There were city agencies bringing in porta potties. The fire department's handing out sanitizers and hand wipes. There's a big garden in the middle of the park. There was no political will for anybody to move that zone until the crime started being so prevalent that we had to get in there and move it. I'm just not going to take responsibility for folks coming in there.
I've heard you mention Chief Scoggins twice now. Did the fire department and police have some issue around this?
Yeah, well, I'm just telling you that there were people who were more helping and conciliatory initially when it started than at the end where all the crimes were occurring.
So just to be clear, the Seattle Police Department doesn't take any type of responsibility for the formation of the Chaz or the CHOP.
Yeah, the Seattle Police Department was not involved in creating the Capitol Hill organized protest zone.
So there you go. So that was Chief Best there August 10th. And, I asked the question quite a few times. I'm like, well, you guys at Seattle Police, you guys don't take any responsibility for leaving and then this vacuum being filled by the Chaz and CHOP. And Chief Best there on quite a few occasions said they don't take no responsibility. Also in this interview, you watched the full interview there, I asked again, who gave the order? It sounds like, and somebody put a comment up there, there's some mutiny in the ranks. And that's what people have been saying for a minute about the SPD and how the protests went around, is that there very well might have just been a mutiny. If the chief is saying that, well, man, I really don't know. Somebody in the mayor saying this and that, did officers themselves just decide to leave the precinct?
Right. I mean, at this point, there's a lot to be considered here. And I know in the Black community, there was a lot of folks that were talking about how, this was really pressure on Chief Best. As a Black woman, it was a major deal for her to be, Seattle police chief. And, there was a lot of people saying, hey, we're folks targeting, Chief Best and trying to make her seem bad. I have no idea because, again, when you don't have the answers, when those who should have the answers are not giving them, it makes people make up some stories to try to fill in the voids.
Yeah, and again, not getting too far off topic, we're not going to let you just throw Chief Scoggins under the bus for sensationalized media. You never know. Scoggins' thing is Health One is cracking. People like Health One. This could be coordinated effort to try to throw some shade on Chief Scoggins and his Health One program. It's greasy down here. City politics and media and everything else. Just wanted to show you guys because, we keep all the receipts here at Converge. And man, I invite you to go through the thousands of hours now or whatever of footage and everything else. This is the actual moment when the Seattle Police Department, the last officers left, were on bike. This is when the Seattle Police Department evacuated their East Precinct. And what happened from there is that protesters come up there, you'll see. And we also got other interviews there when you see I don't know who the FBI was watching, and maybe the FBI can let us know because they said indications of a threat. Maybe the Federal Bureau of Investigation would be happy to talk to you. Let's send a request over to them, Nikki, and see if they can tell us the actual threat. They can take the Sharpie, do the redactions, names, and everything else. Because indications of a threat, which was in that clip last night, and actual threats is two different things. But anyways, this is when the Seattle Police Department rolled away from the East Precinct.
Ask them to hold the line. Ask them to hold the line. And ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in over a week, Pine Street is now open. Pine Street is open. The police have cleared the way. The lieutenant is at the top of the hill. Here now we finally get a closer look at the East Precinct. We can see that it's boarded up. We see chain link fence around it. It says no trespassing. Now, definitely don't think that anybody was being disingenuous when they said it's not being abandoned. But my friends, looks abandoned. We see the SWAT vehicles over here, special weapons and tactics. These guys are loading onto their vehicles, and it looks like they're getting ready to head out over here on 12th Avenue. We see a bicyclist now. It's coming down. Are you coming down? You'll be the first person to cross Pine Street. There it is. There's the first two people right here to cross Pine Street and 12th in over a week. There it is. These are the first people to cross by this. Here's the East Precinct right here. As the protesters now head east. They're heading east past the East Precinct. If you're a protester, you consider this a victory, a moral victory, a total victory in that sense. And like I said, for the first time here in over a week, people are actually walking freely on Pine Street on Capitol Hill.
There you go. And this is, like I said, man, we was there. And one thing that's absolutely not going to happen, and this is the reason why Converge and other small medias, and I saw some streamers out there last night posting stuff and everything else. Imagine if we didn't exist. Imagine if Converge Media didn't exist. This narrative they want to toss out there about Chief Scoggins would just be the narrative. And, I invite people, I don't say this often during the show, share this episode. Share this episode with people. Get the word out there. Don't let somebody sit up there and just here's a picture of Chief Scoggins. Here's Raz with a gun and minimize this man's efforts to that. Minimize his career. Minimize his dedication to the city of Seattle. You know what? When the city called for leaders, Chief Scoggins stepped up, went down there. You know what I'm saying? Most of that stuff that he dealt with had nothing to do with fire. But guess what? Wouldn't nobody else come? Mommy Horror showed up. Sam Zimbabwe showed up. We ain't see nobody from the mayor's office. We ain't see no city council members down there. So you know what? If you're going to tell the story, tell the whole story. If you need archive footage, come talk to Converge. You need eyewitnesses. Bobby Steels is available. But you know what? You're not going to throw our black fire chief underneath the fire truck and don't think we ain't going to push back on it.
You know what? I'm so glad that this is being uplifted today, because I think you're absolutely right. When we talk about so many things that are broken with major media, you were just encouraging the viewers to, imagine if a Converge or these live streamers weren't there. And we don't even have to imagine it. We can go back to when we didn't have these options, when all we had was what was coming out of major media. What is happening right now in terms of our American psyche? We are waking up to the fact that these kinds of tactics with regard to propaganda have been basically shifted upon us since America was created. And literally what we just saw there with Chief Scoggins and Rasimone, unfortunately, is a new age example of the very old system. Again, that propagandic system of trying to push messaging and that sensationalizing of news. So I'm just glad that we do have real accounts on the ground.
Yeah. And the best thing is we ain't going for the okie doke. And again, we're not going to let you push some narrative about this man and about his efforts down there and Chief Scoggins' efforts and everything else. We're not going to let you create some kind of new narrative in the city that Chief Scoggins was some nefarious character who's ex-wife. He was down there. And again, all this stuff was streamed live in June. There's absolutely nothing new here, my friends. Stream live in June. Again, we're going to follow up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations and see what the difference is of indications of a threat and actual threat. And again, we're going to send message and email to the mayor's office and to Chief Diaz, who gave the order. We were sitting here talking about something totally different yesterday. We had a plan for a different show. People want to rip the scab off. Come on, let's go. Let's talk. This is something we'll talk about all day. And you just know this. Converge Media, we not gonna run and hide, especially when it comes to this man shedding some light on the truth of events. And any other media that's out there, if you're gonna go and replay this story about Chaz and Chop, everything else, come talk to us. Yeah. We got footage for you. We talk to you all day. We're gonna take a short break right now. We got a real quick session with Nikki Barron, because after that we have the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. They got some real important information that we want to get out to the public. You are watching the Morning Update Show.
My parents coming over here as refugees meant that they didn't really have anything when they came to America. Having reliable healthcare and having a reliable doctor was really important. Cộng đồng của tôi, trạm y tế của tôi.
我的社区，我的诊所。Mi comunidad, mi clínica.
بلشدة هي بقارها.
My community, my clinic.
All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. Ooh, you look fuzzy today out there, Nikki. What's going on? Oh. I guess we can hear you in here. You're not getting too have an echo, are you?
Nope, I fixed that. Oh.
All right. Well, we're gonna have to take you wide, my friend, because
Yeah.
you're real fuzzy there. All right. So what do we got going on in the world of COVID? Unfortunately, it's a lot and not a lot of good news. But what do you have for us today?
It's not a lot of good news. So I wanted to start by first talking about the daily numbers. So record level cases reported in Washington state surpassed the original record of 2,600 in the daily cases. So in Seattle alone, as of yesterday, 149 new cases, 7-day average of 141, almost 1,800 cases in the last 14 days. And we have a little over 9,000 cases, positive cases, 2 hospitalizations. And the number that you saw there that I want to zoom in on right now is 0.6 prevalence. So the reason I want to zoom in is because I wanted to find a real example to express, like, what does that prevalence mean? So a 1% prevalence in Washington on Thanksgiving means that statistically 76,000 people will have COVID on Thanksgiving. Potentially 40,000 of them will be asymptomatic and bring that COVID-19 to their dinner tables. So statistically, that means that 450 people carrying those infections on Thanksgiving Day will actually have died by New Year's. So that is a jarring number. So, I mean, that's getting really close to home, guys. So it's really, really important that we, take these local health officials at their word when they're urging us to respect the stay-at-home order. Because we're in the situation that we're in right now because of this next story that I'm bringing to you from our friends at KUOW. And that is this headline: Washington wedding with more than 300 guests linked to 17 coronavirus cases. So 17 doesn't sound like that much, but there was another example similar to this in Maine where they had even less people. And over the course of the contact tracing, they were able to get over 170 cases confirmed. 7 people died. Not one of those were guests at the wedding, and 6 of them were in an elder care facility. So because these people held a 300-person wedding in Maine, they killed somebody's grandmama. You know what I'm talking? You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to respect these stay-at-home orders. Yeah. So those are the 2 major updates.
Yeah, I just, it's a lot of people. We talked about it yesterday. It's a lot of people at home today. I mean, and when we talk about it's really a sacrifice, especially a lot of people in the service industry. They're just out of work. It impacts us here at Converge because there was a few people who were volunteering here, and they were able to volunteer here because they got back to work and working, and now they're just they're out of their job. Hopeful, Trey Holiday, that 4 weeks that life will return to normal, although some people are saying that 4 weeks from now, hospitals might be full, and then the governor's like, oh, we can't lift this for 4 weeks, and you're talking about into the new year.
Yeah, we saw this with the first round of COVID, honestly, and thanks for reporting on that, Nikki, because we saw this. I mean, we saw that we didn't know how it was going to play out. And again, that you could say 4 weeks, it needed 6, it needed 8, it kept extending. So we'll see.
Yeah, when we talk about this, it's important to note that there's a delay in how it happens. So we had things like fall weddings, end of summer weddings, as well as Halloween. Then we saw this huge insurgence. So then now we're going to see this. I mean, it's probably going to see this again because we're seeing articles and we're seeing stories and people talking about how they're not going to respect the order and they're going to have their Thanksgiving dinners anyway. So I don't foresee that these lockdowns are going to go away anytime soon. Oh, looks like we lost you.
So now I'm gonna add myself back in here. Huh? How does this one work?
Yeah, new studio bugs.
I think I'm back.
I can see you. Oh, so your laptop camera is up and working. So it looks like they just probably need a few minutes to get the studio back up and running. But in the meantime, I have a couple more clips if you want me to.
I see you.
Through.
Can you see me?
I can.
Oh, okay. So we're back now. We got time for one more, Nikki, and then we got to take a break.
Okay, sounds good. So kind of what I was talking about, how people are saying they're not going to respect the cases. I wanted to bring up one clip that I hope will maybe encourage people to pay attention to this order. And it's another one from our friends here at KUOW. And it's about healthcare workers. They're tired and frustrated with COVID complacency as the cases surge. I think, healthcare workers have come out publicly. Nurses have, especially here in Seattle, released a statement saying, we don't want your pizza orders. We don't want your applause at 7 p.m. every day. What we want is for you to stay home and respect these orders. We're tired. We're getting COVID. We're dying. Like, please just stay home. So that's my final clip for you is if you're not going to listen to me, the governor, listen to the nurses and the doctors that you hold so in high regard.
All right, that's what's up. I mean, we're quick on our toes back here in the studio, huh?
Yeah.
We got you over. We're going to take a short break right now. When we come back, we got the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. Lots of good information there. You are watching the Morning Update Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. My name is Omari Salisbury. And Nikki, I know that this next topic here is also near and dear to your heart, so we're going to add you in here as we bring in Melissa and we bring in Chris from the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation. Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being patient. We had a different show today, and I kind of got on a rant. I went over time. My rant might have even blew out the computer over there. They're working on a workaround. But man, let me jump right into it. And we'll start with you first, Melissa. Tell us, man, what's the Northwest Parkinson's Foundation all about?
Yeah, so at Northwest Parkinson's Foundation, our goal is really to partner with every single person who is impacted by Parkinson's disease in the Northwest. So whether you're in Washington, Alaska, Idaho, or Montana, whether you have Parkinson's or it's your spouse or your mom or dad or brother, if you're impacted by Parkinson's, we want to help you navigate this.
Okay. Ooh, I'm gonna echo back over there. Nikki was saying that there's an event this Friday, and Chris, maybe you can tell us about the event, and I think that probably Nikki can even put the link in the comments.
Okay, well, the event is interesting. You might want to, I don't know specifically everything about it, so you want to kind of give them a moment.
We're just a happy-go-lucky show here, so don't worry. This isn't the heartbreak like MSNBC or something. You're good.
Yeah, so on Friday, we're actually doing what we call a Hope Educational Program, and it's an interview between Chris, who's here with us, and Jordan, who is not able to be on this morning, about this project that we have called the Parkinson's Project. And really what it is all about is we've worked with Representative Eric Pettigrew to get funding to specifically address disparities in healthcare access to specialty coverage for people who have Parkinson's in the African American community. So what our organization found is that people, it doesn't matter who you are, you can get Parkinson's. It doesn't matter if you're white or black or Asian or whomever. It's an equal opportunity offender. But what we see is that not as many people from the African American community are actually accessing specialist care. And there are a lot of different reasons for that, but this project is really looking at how do we address those disparities and barriers. And so Chris is our Parkinson's advocate, and he can talk a little bit more about his involvement with the project.
Okay. Yeah, I was diagnosed with Parkinson's about was about a year and a half ago, and my profession is I teach fitness and dance. And what was interesting to me is that what I do in terms of movement actually helps alleviate the Parkinson's symptoms. And I didn't really know that. The only thing I knew about Parkinson's was celebrities that have had Parkinson's or have it, like Muhammad Ali and Michael J. Fox. So I really thought that, and especially looking at Muhammad Ali, I thought my future was kind of going to be short in terms of what I can and can't do. But realizing that what I do actually helps, it really made me think about wanting to be a part of something that I can share that kind of feeling and also be involved in the Parkinson's community. But what was interesting, teaching and getting more involved in the Parkinson's community, I didn't really see very many people of color. And so this particular project was kind of intriguing to me to be able to be a part of something where you're actually finding out ways that you can help spread the word in terms of this disease and what you can do about it. Yeah, it was just sort of heartfelt and important for me to be able to not just sit and do nothing, but actually be a little bit proactive and to be involved and to represent something that I feel is important. It's like, because I mean, I think with something like this, you're going along fine with your life, and then something like this happens, you can kind of either shut down or you can be proactive and do something. So I'm doing what I can. I teach classes for people with Parkinson's, and I do a lot of exploration of my own in terms of what I can do to help myself. So it's a journey, but it's an inspiring journey. Keeps me going. Like even doing this show, I thought was important because one thing I just want to say, because I was listening to your interview, Amari, and just talking, and I just think that there's something about you have to see people that look like you and represent you in any way, shape, or form. I just think that it should be equal, fair. It should be promoted. You have to see yourself. You have to get a sense of your voice and your presence. And I think that's what has helped me a lot. So I enjoy this show. I was watching in the waiting room. I really like the feel of it. So thank you.
Man, wow. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And I think that, in this short conversation right here, you brought it right home to me because, people would forget about Muhammad Ali. One a very famous name in our global community, but Muhammad Ali, Parkinson's. Man, I'm glad you guys are on here today because, sometimes in conversation here around these political issues and everything else, sometimes we forget to anchor ourselves in humanity and in our humanity. And so, in talking to you this morning is like, you just kind of feel that humanity just kind of rush back over into the studio. And I mean, I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for this conversation right here because it reminds me of who we are and who we aspire to be. And we aspire to be people who always err on the side of humanity. And so I'm thankful to you. Nikki Barron, did you have a question?
I did. My question is, who should be getting screened for Parkinson's, and what are sort of the signs that we should take into account if we think that we should get screened? I think that's probably early detection. Things like that are really important for something like this.
Yeah, that's a great question, Nikki. So there isn't actually one single diagnostic test that will give you a Parkinson's diagnosis. What we really recommend people do is have a good relationship with their primary care provider so that if they start seeing symptoms like tremor or balance issues or swallowing issues, that they can bring those up with their primary care provider and then get referred on to a neurologist from there. And that's really the part that we're trying to address with this Parkinson's project is how come people aren't getting to specialists from their primary care providers. And so Chris can probably talk a little bit more about why that is and the interesting research that you found as part of the project.
Well, the one thing I would want to say is that it's important. I just look at myself, and what I gravitate toward will probably be something that, again, represents my values and what I look like, what's important to me. I think so many things are so divisive and along racial barriers. And I think you really need to have something that is grounded in your history and your origin and what you're about. I think that would help a lot of people who want to check things out. Say, oh, this might be something, this looks like it's about me as opposed to not about me.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. If you guys are interested in this event, we have I put it here in the link for you. You can also head over to their website. The event is this Friday, November 20th. I believe it's 11 a.m. Wanted to make sure I got that right, online. And it is a conversation between Jordan and Chris about the Black experience and the specialized care around Parkinson's. And just hit their website at nwpf.org. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Melissa, Chris, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your man, the Big O. Want to take a moment here, first of all, to say thank you for your support of Converge Media. We definitely wouldn't be here without you. Secondly, I want to thank everybody who is a supporter of Converge Media on Patreon. We definitely appreciate your support. And for those of you might not know, I'll let you know, we operate 100% off of donations. Some donations big, most donations small, but we love all donations all the same. If you haven't done so yet, I want to encourage you to go on our website to whereweconverge.com/donate and subscribe. You click on the Patreon link and you can subscribe for as little as $5 a month. There's higher tiers beyond that as well. And just know that your subscription literally keeps us on the air. Once again, I want to thank you for all your support. All right, welcome back to the Morning Update Show. We're getting ready to get out of here. Man, we're also going to get out of here on time today. Yeah, we got on a rant and everything. We're going to get out of here on time. A few things. One, I want to thank everybody who are our Patreon subscribers. People who've been subscribing, we're going to do a big shout out for you tomorrow. And also, if you haven't subscribed, or if you want to make a one-time donation to Converge Media, you can go to whereweconverge.com/donate. We appreciate everything, man. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you could even through PayPal, through Venmo, through Cash App. You know, sometimes people send $2, $3. Man, we're thankful because we know that's what you have. Also, we're wide open for prayers and positive energy. Never turning that down. Another way people can support us, we still got merch. These have really gone fast. These Converge breast cancer awareness t-shirts. We still got a few left though, in black and white. And a good way to support Converge Media. Pick up a shirt, a jacket, something like that. Any other notes before we get out of here today, Trey?
None for me, man. Make it a great Wednesday.
Yeah, we gonna make it great, and we keeping an eye out for our people. Worst come to worst, our people come first. Until tomorrow, 11 a.m. Peace.
Lift every voice and sing till earth in heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise as the Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun.